This show is part of the RetroZap.com podcast network.
And welcome everybody to another Tiny Toons episode of the Animaniacs.
Oh! Hello? Babs, we will never finish the show if we keep getting interrupted. Okay. Lars, hold all calls. Uh-oh. What? It's Steven. He's holding on line 4. Steven who? You know Steven who? Our boss, the guy with the beard. Oh. Well, what does he want? I don't know, but Lars says he's not happy.
And welcome once again to the Animaniacs. We are the only podcast out there that's dedicated to the animated cartoon series Animaniacs. And we talk about, of course, nothing else. Today we're going to be talking about another episode of Tiny Toon Adventures. Wait. Oh, okay. So yes, we do talk about other stuff now. Whatever. We're going to be revisiting all the cultural references and gags that we can find. And of course, in the end, we're going to give this episode of Tiny Toon Adventures a Water Tower rating. I am Joey, and joining me once again from Los Angeles, it's my brother, Nathan.
Looks like I got to run, guys. Carrie Fisher's calling from Paris.
I wish. And across the country in Georgia, it's Kelly.
You know, if Steven Spielberg called me from the 405, I would not give the phone to Sneezer to answer.
No matter how angry you might thought he might be. Which, come on, does Steven get angry like that? I don't know.
I couldn't say, but he seems very mild-mannered, but, I mean, I don't know what he's like on the set, but I've never heard any bad stories, unless you count Shia LaBeouf and we don't talk about him.
Exactly. That's an exception to the rule. Shia is just an exception to everybody's rules. But anyway, enough about that. Today, of course, we're going to be jumping ahead in the Tiny Toons timeline, the Triple T. We first just talked about the premiere episode of Tiny Toons a few weeks ago. But today, Kelly had free choice. So, of course, she decided to jump all the way to episode 81 of Tiny Toons. It was the third episode of the third season of Tiny Toons, entitled Foxtrot, and it includes some wraparound segments with Buster and Babs being chased by 2 foxes, and it has 3 main segments: My Brilliant Revenge, Can't Buy Me Love, and of course, one of Kelly's favorite segments, the reason we're doing today's episode, Phone Call from the 405. So, if someone were to ask you about this episode in a few words, what would you tell them, Nathan?
This is like Kelly's favorite episode.
And what about you, Kelly?
I would say it's my favorite episode.
Nathan, tell us, when did episode 81 of Tiny Toon Adventures first premiere?
All right, so this episode premiered on a Wednesday. It was September 16th of 1992, which was the same day that the American singer, actor, and producer Nick Jonas was born in Dallas, Texas. It was one day before Frank Zappa made his final professional public appearance, where he conducted the Ensemble Modern at the Frankfurt Festival in Germany. And it was 2 days before the release of the movie Captain Ron.
Oh, Captain Ron.
Yes, that would be your highlight.
I like Captain Ron. That's a good movie. That's with Martin Short and, oh God, who plays...
Is it Kurt Russell?
Kurt Russell, yeah.
Yep.
And then that's a weird movie because Martin Short actually plays the straight man in that one for once. I mean, he's still a little wacky and everything, but he's like the straight-laced family guy in that movie. Mm-hmm. And Kurt Russell's the wacky sea captain with one eyeball There's a great scene chasing a glass eyeball. I remember that was very funny.
Watch out for the Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh yes, the Pirates of the Caribbean. The Pirates of the Caribbean.
What's this?
Monopoly.
No, this.
245s and a Mac 10.
It's his Toto Macho trip, Dad. Just ignore it.
Where'd they come from?
Captain Ron traded the grills for him.
Yeah, I thought we ought to have them, boss, because, we're getting into pirate waters here pretty quick.
What pirates?
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Been to Disney World one too many times, have we, Captain Ron?
It's true, Dad. They come up on you on high-speed boats.
I don't believe I've ever been to Disney World.
Oh, really?
I've been to Hollywood.
And there's also, I remember watching that as a little kid, that there is a brief scene of, like, I think the character of the mom is, like, topless for a few seconds.
I think so.
Which is such a weird thing, because it's such a family film, and to have a brief bit of nudity is just, that's just how it was in the 80s and 90s,
They really did. They put in all sorts of comedies and stuff. Just this gratuitous topless shot.
Yeah, and it made no difference to the movie at all.
One time, my grandmother wanted to go to the movies, and so my brother and I wanted to see, I think it was Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. I think it was the sequel. And she and my dad were like, no, we're going to go see Doc Hollywood with the Michael J. Fox. And I don't even remember if that was a comedy or not, but we saw that, and there was a topless scene, and I only remember it because my grandmother was scandalized.
Yes.
And it was so, and she was this little lady, and she would say stuff like, "Oh, my stars and garters." And we were dying. It was so funny because she was just absolutely horrified.
Yeah, I remember Doc Hollywood. Yeah, that was. I remember that scene. Boy, oh boy, adolescent Joey was very, very memorable scene where she's jumping into the lake, I think, or coming out of the lake. That's it. She's coming out of the lake.
My brother and I were like, well, we should have gone to see Bill and Ted. I told you.
I told you. Oh, 80s and 90s films. See, and we don't have that problem today, I don't think, with films anymore. If it's PG-13, you're probably not going to see anything that's scandalous, and certainly not PG.
You know who we have to thank for the PG-13 rating?
Mr. Steven Spielberg.
Thank you. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Yes, indeed. Well, let's go ahead and get straight into today's episode. And before we talk about the main segments, I guess we should point out that there are these wraparounds with these foxes chasing Buster and Babs around. And they point out that they're on the Fox network now. And so these are the Fox News, not Fox News. There was no Fox News at this time. But the Fox executives who were there to help make their show even better. Yeah, right.
It could be worse. We could be stuck on the Peacock network.
Anyway, it was kind of a cute thing, and obviously this whole chasing around bit is going to be paid off at the end with the 405, but just something of note, I suppose. Let's go ahead and get into our discussion of the first segment, and it is My Brilliant Revenge. And My Brilliant Revenge was written by Peter Hastings, and it was directed by Ken Boyer. And in My Brilliant Revenge, let's see, this is basically Hampton Pig is settling down to watch his favorite show, the show that he's been really waiting for, Swine Search. And unfortunately, right before he's about to find out who wins the best model pig or whatever, this horrible bagpipe music is coming out, and actually it is so horrible that it stinks. It literally stinks. It's Plucky Duck. His music is so bad that it makes Sweetie Bird throw up. Hatch, apparently Sweetie Bird hatches every morning for whatever reason, but she throws up, and then when he goes outside of Hampton's house, he plays so loud and so horribly that he can't hear who wins, and Hampton tries blocking it all out, but of course it doesn't work.
Plucky, if you don't mind, I'm trying to watch the most crucial television event of my life. Will you please keep it down? You mean you don't want me to get into the Acme All-Bagpipe Band? It's not that. You want me to stop practicing and suffer the burden of mediocrity? Of course not. You want me to ignore the money I spent on this rental?
Eventually, he misses the whole, who won the main competition. So he gets so upset, he goes outside to Plucky's bagpipe and rips it up into a million pieces.
I hate bagpipes! Alas, poor bagpipe. I knew ye well. So help me, Hampton J. Pig. I'll get revenge!
He decides to go into Hampton's house when Hampton is away, and he puts a little booby trap. Basically, when Hampton sits back down, this tape of bad bagpipe music is going to play not at 10, but just like Spinal Tap, he puts up his speakers all the way to 11.
What we do is if we need that extra push over the cliff, you know what we do?
Put it up to 11.
11, exactly.
He goes to his house, and he sees that there's a note from Hampton, and it says, "Come meet me in the park." So Plucky thinks, well, this is going to be a fight.
So he wants a showdown, a duel, a grudge match, a provoked altercation. Well, what have I got to lose? I've still got my brilliant revenge!
So he goes off to go fight Hampton. In fact, there's a whole boxing ring and everything where they're ready to fight. And Plucky pumps himself up like Rambo. And I had thoughts of Particle Man in my head.
Me too.
But he didn't do it during Particle Man for whatever reason. But he did pump himself up by inhaling a lot of air for whatever reason. This time, made himself really big, even brought like a little cannon to blow Hampton away. And Hampton is not there to fight. He's just there to apologize for ripping up Plucky's bagpipes. And in fact, he gives Plucky a brand new bagpipe.
I'm sorry. Here, I got you new bagpipes. That's not fair. You can't apologize. I'm still angry. Don't make me right. I don't want to be right. Of course I am right. But I want to be mad. I want my brilliant revenge.
Well, Plucky suddenly flashes to realize that, oh no, there's still that timer that's set to go off when Hampton comes back to his house. So he realizes he's got to, get rid of the bomb, get rid of the bagpipe bomb. Unfortunately, when he goes to turn off the bomb, it goes off anyway.
Mother. I'm okay, really.
Which sends Plucky burst against the wall. In fact, it hurts him so bad that his bones fly out of his body.
I'm the sorry one. I'm sorry I made you miss your favorite show. Oh, that's okay. I taped it anyway.
Which then proceeds to make Plucky chase Hampton down the road, holding the VHS tape over his head, so he's going to hit him with the tape. So we got to see analog tapes. Yes, kids, this is what we had to use before, DVRs and everything like that. We had to use VHS tapes and cassette tapes to record our music and play it back. It's true.
That's how I taped this episode and watched it over and over again.
Well, there's our first segment. Let's go ahead and just run down, I suppose, some of the cultural references. Obviously, the biggest one was probably Star Search.
Today, the grand finals here on Swine Search.
I was a little shocked. I mean, for you kids out there, you may not know what the heck Star Search is or who Ed McMahon is.
It was like American Idol for a wider It wasn't just singing.
Yeah.
American Idol, but not just singing.
Yeah, it was almost like Rosie O'Donnell, I know, made her premiere on there, and as a comedian. So it had all different types of things. It was really, the premise of it really was like, we are looking for Hollywood stars.
From Hollywood, it's the world's greatest talent competition. It's Star Search with your host, Ed McMahon. Joining Ed tonight from Gimme a Break, Nell Carter. From St. Elsewhere, Mark Harmon. And last week's returning Star Search champions. From Decatur, Alabama, 4-time dance champs, Mark and Laura Sellers. From Milford, Connecticut, Deborah Chevalier. From Los Angeles, Brad Garrett. From Nashville, Jessica Boucher. From Toronto, Dorothy Gula. From Nashville, 4-time champ Sawyer Brown. And 10-time champ Sam Harris. All going for $1.5 million and the title, Best New Stars for 1984. And now the star of Star Search, Ed McMahon.
Do you remember watching Star Search at all, Nathan?
No.
No. See, I was a little shocked, like, when I saw that Hampton was watching this during the day, and I was going, that's kind of weird. Is that really what happened? Then I realized it was a syndicated show. At least it was, I believe, in Tucson.
It came on Saturday morning.
Yeah, which is so weird in retrospect now. Like, it goes against where you would usually show an America's Got Talent or an American Idol kind of show. You would want to show that at nighttime, not during the day. But yeah, it matches. That's exactly when Star Search was. So yeah, Swine Search also plays during the day when people are out playing bagpipes. It makes perfect sense. A few little quick things I noticed about Hampton's house. Number one, his animation looked kind of crazy. I don't know about you guys, but when he's biting those, he has piles and piles of sandwiches all around his chair. I mean, he is a pig. He lives in I love how every house next to him is like a pigsty house, and he has the neat little house right in the middle of it because he's such a neat little pig. And he stacks his little sandwiches up so neatly, and he's eating pie, but whenever he eats, his teeth kind of go crazy, and they get, like big gaps in his teeth to make him look kind of crazy to me, but whatever. He almost looked like his Uncle Stinky, actually, from how I spent my summer vacation a little bit. But I did notice one weird thing, not really, I don't know if it's a very strong connection, but Hampton has a theme that plays when he enters, and to me it sounded a lot like a certain Skippy and Slappy cartoon that you may remember from a while ago, and that is Bumby's mom's theme, or the Bumby's theme, basically. The Bumby, the dearest dear. Yeah.
Bumby, the dearest dear, deep in the darkest forest he grew. Bumby, the dearest dear, his mother the only friend he knew.
No, I don't know that at all.
Yeah, you listen to the episode again, and when Hampton comes in, you could almost sing "Bumby, the dearest dear" when he comes in. I'm just like, wow, that's I'm sure that's just a coincidence, but I definitely heard that.
Oh, unbridled excitement. This is it.
Anyway, there's a cubist joke in there. Did you guys understand what that was all about? When Plucky got hit out, and he said, "Plucky, are you okay? And can you hear me?" And he says, "No, I'm cubist," or something.
Yeah.
I mean, I know cubist is a type of art, but I didn't get it though.
The Picasso did the cubist artwork, and so he would draw people and things and these really wacky shapes, and it was a form of surrealism. Right.
So is the reason that Plucky couldn't hear him or whatever is because his ears were in the wrong place or something? I'm not exactly sure.
Maybe.
Sure.
That joke was like a little too, I mean, I got it, but I didn't get it at the same time.
Art can't hear you, Joey. So there.
So there.
Stop talking to paintings, okay?
Okay, I'm sorry. Anyway, that's, other than a few other cool things, like the animation was kind of cool, and there's a cool point of view shot from Hamton's point of view with his hands reaching out to grab Plucky's bagpipes. That's about it for me. What do you guys think about this episode? Do you see any references that I missed, or any parts that you really liked, Nathan?
There's a reference in on the wiki. It says that when Hamton says "darn, darn, triple darn," could be a reference to drat, drat, double drat, which is something that the Hanna-Barbera villain Dick Dastardly says. And
Interesting.
Don Messick also did Dastardly's voice, so it would make sense if it's a reference to that.
He did so many voices for Hanna-Barbera.
Mm-hmm.
He did Scooby-Doo and Astro and Boo Boo and Muttley and, like you were saying, Dick Dastardly, or Dirk Dastardly. I'm not exactly sure what his name is. But
something like that.
Something like that. He was just a iconic guy, but it's so cool that he was, even though he's in his 60s, he could still have such a kind of a high-pitched voice in these episodes, such a young voice, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So Hampton's voice is so cool. You can definitely hear kind of Boo Boo in that, but his range to be doing like deeper things, like, you know, Astro and Scooby Doo, and it just is amazing to me. But whatever. Kelly, what are some things that stood out for you?
I thought the whole thing, like the whole cartoon, I'm like, why didn't he tape the thing? And then it turns out that he did. And I thought that was kind of funny, but it also was kind of annoying because I was like, "You're so stupid! You didn't tape your show." Like, I learned how to set and record programs while I was at school when I was in kindergarten. I kid you not. Like, we were taping the Ewok Adventure off TV. We used the VCR for literally everything, and we went through a lot too. And like, I would tape every episode of Tiny Toons and Animaniacs, and then I would convert them into another tape so I could save the episodes I wanted to keep and take out the commercials.
Yep.
So, I should have been an editor, apparently. But it's really tedious, and I didn't like it that much when I took video production. But yeah, it was kind of funny. It was a funny punchline, but I was just like yelling at the screen, like, why didn't you tape it?
I like editing. Go figure. I'm doing, edit this podcast all the time, but I always like video and
that's
audio.
Why you do the editing.
Exactly. Well, yeah. Well, let's put it this way. I put up with editing.
Hampton should have just turned up the TV louder, too. He could have just, try to drown it out that way.
It was so loud, Nathan, and it smelled. I mean, it was not only loud, but it was also stinky. He stinks. Wow. It stinks.
It stinks.
Anyway.
Your music's bad and you should feel bad.
Simpsons.
No.
What? Isn't that from The Simpsons?
That's Futurama.
Oh, I'm so close.
Kind of
close enough.
It's that was Zoidberg who said that, though, right?
Your music's bad and you should feel bad.
There you go. I know. I thought it was, for some reason, Grandpa Simpson, which we were just reading the Disney Plus press release that all of the Simpsons will be on Disney Plus. Mm-hmm. And I hope Futurama should probably be there too, right? Because that was a Fox property.
I don't know. Is it on FX Plus or whatever?
I don't know.
FXX?
I don't know where if it's streaming anywhere right now.
Yeah, exactly. So
it was on Netflix for a while, and I think it might have gone over to Hulu. But of course, Disney owns most of Hulu as well. So I don't know. Disney owns everything.
Everything.
I think that's what we should basically say at the end of every episode now. Instead of "Good night, everybody," just say Disney owns everything.
Right.
Just a reminder.
Should be brought to you by Disney.
Exactly.
I'm Sir Chomps-a-Lot. I've lost control for these little raviolis in this great big bowl. Do the chomp! It's a ravioli romp. Do the chomp! Your feet got to stomp. Do the chomp. Do the chomp. Do the chomp.
New Chef Boyardee Sir Chomps a lot. Bite-sized beef or cheese ravioli so good. You just gotta
do the chomp. Excuse me while I jump. Thank goodness for Chef Boyardee.
It's Tiny Toons Adventures!
Bunny yummy! Bunny yummy!
Okay, Disney Life One Bunny Surprise coming up! Oh no! Yes, it's Tiny Toons Adventures starring Buster Bunny!
Talk to me, I'm all ears.
And Babs Bunny!
Are you my special friend?
Totally! And the real star, Mr. Bunny's Plucky Duck! Hey, don't forget Hampton!
Big yummy!
Get the hook! Uh-oh!
Tiny Toons and Talking Tiny Toons, sold separately from Play School.
Let's go ahead and get to our next segment, and it is entitled Can't Buy Me Love. And Can't Buy Me Love was written by Deanna Oliver, and it was directed by Ken Boyer. It was nice to see Deanna Oliver's name show up again, since I was used to saying her name in the Animaniacs episode. So, same thing with Peter Hastings, by the way. Peter Hastings, of course, wrote some of Pinky and the Brain's best episodes. Well, tell us, Nathan, what happens here in Can't Buy Me Love?
All right. Well, we have Elmira. She's playing outside with her pet cat Furball, and she notices she has a new neighbor, and the girl comes over, and Elmira wants to be her friend, and this girl, she says, "Call me Queen, call me Queenie." Her name's Rhoda Queen, I guess. And she calls Elmira Butthead, even though that is not Elmira's name. And
who are you, Butthead? That's not my name. My name is Elmira.
Elmira will do pretty much anything to be her friend, so she gives Elmira her bow on top of her head. She then has to give her all of her money from her piggy bank that she breaks open, and they go see a movie. And there at the movie, Rhoda tries to hit on Montana Max, who Elmira says is her boyfriend, not Rhoda Queen's.
Isn't that your boyfriend? Ooh, yeah, Queen. That's my Monty Wanty. Hey, Montana Max, can I sit with you? Elmira says she's not your girlfriend anymore.
Get lost, braidhead!
He is cute. I didn't say I'm not his girlfriend, Queen. If you really like me, Elmira, you will say it.
Say it or I'll never, ever, ever talk to you again, butthead!
I'm not his girlfriend.
Still, Rhoda's like, you go get popcorn. And then we come back when, even though Elmira spent all her money, she buys a nickel worth of popcorn.
Which is like
comes back
3 kernels worth of popcorn, I think.
Which in reality, when you're buying popcorn, you're really paying for the container of the popcorn. It's what costs the movie theater more money than the popcorn. But whatever.
Not in Tiny Toons land. Whatever.
When Elmira comes back into the movie theater, Montana Max is pouring cherry Coke all over Rhoda, Queenie. And then so Queen gets really upset and says we're leaving. And that's when they get home and they find the cat. They're playing with the cat, and Rhoda Queen's saying that she always wanted a cat, and she says, Elmira, give me your cat and I'll be your best friend. And then Elmira's like, no, that's my baby. And then basically says that they're not going to be friends anymore.
Who cares? I never liked you anyway. I got the most beautiful kitty, the most cuddly, wuddly kitty in the whole world. I'll be your best friend for all the days if you really like me and give me 1,000,000 billion hugs. Wait, you don't have to give me anything. Friends just like each other, and they don't have to give each other anything if they don't want to, and that just means they didn't feel like giving something just to get a friend. The end.
And then outside, Queenie's saying like, "Hey, I'll be your best friend if you just steal your mom's car keys and drive me to Utah." And Elmira says that's a great idea and runs off. So that's how the episode ends.
That line made me laugh out loud right there.
Yeah, I like that.
I'll be your best friend again if you get the car keys from your ma and drive me to Utah. Okay.
Well, let's see. Okay, cultural references. First of all, there's that Rhoda Queen, whatever her name is, looked so weird with that little smile, and I couldn't quite place it, but I think she might be influenced somehow by like that weird, creepy doll on The Twilight Zone. You know, the one that they parodied later in The Simpsons with the Krusty the Clown doll? It's like the killer doll or something like that. I think that's the one. But anyway, that weird face, she just looked a lot like the Twilight Zone doll to me. Maybe not a connection, but whatever. But really the biggest cultural reference is probably the Schlocketeer in the movie theater, which of course is a parody of the Rocketeer. Instead of the Rocketeer, though, it's Calamity Coyote, and he just, he's shooting around the place and falling down.
The Rocketeer had an amazing soundtrack, by the way, by the late James Horner.
Ah, okay. Well, I was going to mention the soundtrack that they were playing in the theater didn't quite sound like the Rocketeer. It sounded a little bit like the Superman theme, to me.
Yeah, it was not really Rocketeer-like.
No, I was like, the second or third time I was watching, I was just listening, to it. And I was like, this almost sounds like the Superman theme is about to, boot up, but it doesn't quite. Have either of you, Kelly, you've seen Rocketeer, the movie?
Oh yeah. I got when it came out on I guess it was Blu-ray. I got a review copy, so there's a review on Big Shiny Robot.
Plug, shameless plug.
I know, right?
Yeah. I'd never seen the movie. I think at least all the way through. I've seen, it was like one of those movies that I would try to catch on cable, and I'd only see like 10 minutes of it, and I go, no, I want to see it from the beginning. And then I'd never catch it from the beginning. But
yeah, I used to watch it on the Disney Channel.
Yeah, it seems like it's right up my alley, though, because I love Indiana Jones and cereals, and I love cereal because it's delicious. And,
Yum.
And but I've never seen, Nathan, have you seen The Rocketeer?
I've seen parts of it. I think I started it. I feel like I saw the beginning of it and then parts in the middle of it, but I never, because like a commercial will come on and then I'm like, well, I don't want to watch a commercial. I want to watch Rocketeer. And that's what happens. So,
well, the director of The Rocketeer, I forget his name. What's his, let me look it up here real quick because he has importance. Joe Johnston. Joe Johnston directed Honey, I Shrunk
a lot of things.
Yeah, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Jumanji. He directed the first Captain America film, and I believe he's responsible for the look of Boba Fett. I think he helped design Boba Fett's costume. So, Joe Johnston's. I really want to see him get back into Star Wars in some way, some manner.
And Joe Johnston also directed an episode of the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. If I recall correctly, it's the Princeton 1916 episode, which would be when Young Indy's in New Jersey and he meets Edward Stratemeyer of the Stratemeyer Syndicate, which launched the characters of Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys, and he met Thomas Edison, and it was a really good episode.
Yeah.
I mean, all were, but that one in particular, I got really excited because I learned that Nancy Drew was not written by a woman named Carolyn Keene because that woman didn't exist.
Ah.
So that's why Simon & Schuster never wrote back to my letter written to Carolyn Keene when I was in elementary school because she doesn't exist. So lesson learned.
You know who still does exist though? Is Beverly Cleary. She's still alive. She just celebrated her 103rd birthday, I want to say.
Love her. My mom, I mean, bless her heart, My my teacher loaned me a Ramona Quimby book in second grade, and I read it like in one day and turned it back in. I said, "Where's the others?" And she's like, "Oh no, that's the only one I had." So my mom had to take me to the library, and we proceeded to check out every book written by Beverly Cleary. Once I got through the Ramona books, I went through like the Henry, is it Higgins or Huggins?
Huggins,
and Huggins, and I read Rigsby the dog.
Mm-hmm.
I read all of them.
I think I have a first printing of Ribsy somewhere.
Wow.
Yeah, I found it. I found it in a donated book pile, and I was like, I am keeping this.
I love Ramona. She was so cool.
Well, speaking of transitioning to the cartoon, Ramona was a kid around Elmira's age, and so Elmira is, I really felt a lot of sympathy for Elmira in this cartoon. She has, first of all, we got to mention the awesome song that she sings with the string song when she has poor Furball on this marionette, contraption.
Oh, my best friend is a puppy cat on a string, Oh, my puppy cat is a kitty on a stringy spaghetti, stringy thingy, furball kitty, best friend on a string,
Which, yeah, I feel so sorry for the Furball, especially because he gets, I think, the brunt of all the abuse that Elmira puts animals through. But it's not like she's meaning to abuse the animals, right? She just loves them so much.
Yeah, it's that love that she gives is.
She just needs to know her boundaries. That's the thing, right? So I don't know, poor Elmira. But I did feel a lot of sympathy for her, especially because Queenie was just so horrible in this one. And Queenie does not look good with a blue bow on her head and then two bows on her braids. It was just kind of overkill. And they didn't match. It just looked bad, Queenie. I'm sorry. But whatever. But were there any other moments in this cartoon that you particularly liked there or stood out?
I thought the little girl actually looked like the kid in the Bad Seed movie.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't remember the name of it. I had to look it up, but I was like, blonde braid girl horror movie.
Yeah.
And sure enough, it brought it up. And I was like, yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of.
That
I've never seen it, but it's one of those older ones. It's, I think, black and white, and you'll see it crop up in a lot of like horror countdown lists or montages, compilations, that sort of thing.
You hit him with the shoes, didn't you? You hit him with the shoes. That's how he got those half-moon marks on his forehead and on his hands. Answer me, Rhoda. Answer me!
I hit him with the shoes. I had to hit him with the shoes. What else could I do?
You realize that you murdered him?
But it was his fault. If he gave me the medal like I told him to, I wouldn't have hit him.
Rhoda, what happened to old Mrs. Post in Wichita?
There was ice on the steps, and I slipped and fell against her. And that was all.
That was all?
No. I slipped on purpose.
And so she reminded me of that, so that was creepy. And then, like you, I had a lot of sympathy for Elmira, too, particularly because I was like her when I was a little girl. And, I'd have girls that I'd want to be friends with. And I'm like, oh, you have to do this to be our friend. And I would do it because I didn't know any better. And it was a really toxic environment. And it took me a long time to learn, who I should be friends with and not those kinds of people. But, they were cool and they were smart and I wanted to be like them. And but they were awful human beings.
Yeah. I really got the feeling that this episode was almost felt a little too direct, with Elmira talking to Furball like, I get it now. You don't have to do all this and, to be your friend, and the end.
But then she turns around and agrees. I mean, that sort of undermines the lesson.
Totally. But that's why I love that. That's why that joke at the end made me laugh so much, because it really felt like, okay, kids, here's the lesson of today. And then Elmira just goes right back to being Elmira again. She's so gullible.
Well, I think it's just something she was going to do anyways. She was already going to steal her parents' keys and go to Utah. So
well, Elmira's not the thing is, I know we talked about this last time we were talking about the villains. I never really quite see Elmira as a villain. She's the antagonist, but certainly should not be locked up in a villain's box. Montana Max, however, boy, oh boy. First of all, there's no one in this movie theater. They must have been like a weird showing, or maybe the cheap theater, because there's only these two girls and Montana Max together. And when Queenie sees Montana Max and is like, ooh, who's this guy? I was thinking, oh God, like, please don't let these two grow up and get, have kids, because how horrible would these children be? Like, put Queenie and Montana Max together. No way. Anyway. Nathan, any moments in this that kind of stood out for you?
I like that Elmira's so trusting and loving, but yeah, it is a little just too real. I kept feeling really sorry for her, but yeah, that's just my overall. I don't think there's anything in particular that pops out of me.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and get to our last segment then, and of course, it is Phone Call from the 405. Phone Call from the 405 was written by Tom Ruger, and it was directed by Ken Boyer. And Kelly, here it is. Tell us what happens here in Phone Call from the 405.
Phone Call from the 405 is amazing. Buster and Babs they bring back the wraparound and plays into this segment, or I guess this is the end part of the wraparound. So we've got the Fox censors, and they're chasing Buster and Babs, but then they get a phone call, and somebody named Lars is on the line, and Babs says, let's hold all the calls, and Lars is like, well, it's Steven, and he's not happy. And Buster says, Steven who? And she's like, our boss, Steven, the guy with the beard. And of course, we all know who Steven is. I mean, hello. So they don't want to talk to him because he's not happy. And so they decided to let Sneezer talk to him, because they said Steven thinks he's cute. And so Sneezer gets the phone, and he's like, oh, hi, Steven. Oh, hi, yeah. Oh, so that scene didn't work for you. Okay, well, we'll get Buster and Babs on the phone, and then we'll do it again. You can tell them how you want to do it. And then he concludes the call with okay, let's do lunch. Give my best to Max. Okay, bye. And then he, in this booming voice, says, don't you ever do that to me again. It's like, we never see Sneezer like that. He's pretty angry.
Oh, thanks, Sneezer. We owe you. Big. Oh, and one last thing.
Don't you ever do that to me again! Not ever!
Right. And now, I gotta blow.
So now Sneezer's angry, but he's calmed Steven down. And I'm just going to point out, for, if you don't know, Max is actually Steven Spielberg's eldest son. He from his marriage to his first wife with Amy Irving, Max Spielberg.
Oh,
and,
okay.
Yeah, well, and then Back to the Future.
I knew 3, you would know.
Yeah, Back to the Future 3, you got the marquee, and it's like Jaws 15 or something on the marquee, and it says directed by Max Spielberg.
Ah!
Yeah.
So cool.
I know. What would you do without me? My infinite knowledge. I probably have the number of the sequel wrong, though. I don't remember what number it was, but
yeah, Jaws something. I don't know.
Yeah. So, because you see that like 3D Jaws come out of the marquee at that point. But so they get on the phone with Steven, and he's driving in the car. We finally see him, and he's waving to Michelle Lee in the next car. She's an actress of that era, and can't tell you off the top of my head what she was in. I want to say Dynasty or something, but I could be wrong. That's actually from the 80s, though. And I'm sure Joey will let us know.
Yeah, I'll look it up right now.
And so he's waving to people in the next car, driving. He's got like an actual TV in his car because, hello, Steven Spielberg. And it's on his car phone. And he said that the line quality is all wrong. It's too thick, so they adjust it. And then he says, it needs to be at night. We need the characters in their night colors. So that gets adjusted. You see all these little paintbrushes going on. And he's like, shadows. We need more shadows. More shadows. Lots of shadows. And then all you can see are their eyes blinking in the darkness. And I said, is this good? And he's like, yeah. So then he actually gives some directions. He's talking about like handheld truncating, like imitating running and, build up the dramatic tension and all that. So that's really exciting. And they run through a log, and then they're going to fall off the cliff. And he says that we've done the cliff thing to death. We don't want to do that anymore. So Buster gets the idea to draw a railroad track. And then the train comes and runs over the foxes. And so Steven really likes that.
How about this?
Not bad, not bad. Okay, yeah, good. Okay. Whose idea was that?
Yours, Steven, yours.
Really? Good. It feels special. All right, now truck in fast on their faces, then bam! Oh, and then Buster and Babs ride in on a handcar and then hit them again. I love this.
Oops, forgot about the cliff. Okay, Steven, what happens next?
Listen, I gotta run, guys. Carrie Fisher's calling from Paris.
So they end up falling off the cliff, and then they're smooshed on the ground, and Steven's like, yeah, that fall was a little weak, can we do it again? But then, and then he's like, well, no, but before that, though, he says that he's going to get off the phone because Carrie Fisher is calling from Paris. May she rest in peace. We all know Carrie Fisher, Princess Leia. And the funny thing is, the fact that she's calling from Paris is hilarious because I'm going to bring in another Young Indiana Jones reference here. Carrie Fisher wrote the Young Indiana Jones episode Paris 1916.
Wow.
Where young Indy met Mata Hari. And it was a big pivotal moment in young Indiana Jones' life. Watch the episode if you want to know why. But yeah, it was a pretty big episode for young Indy. So I thought that was just funny. It's probably unintentional, but who knows? So Carrie Fisher Paris, we got that. And so Babs is going, oh, we can't keep Carrie waiting. Perish the thought as she's falling. So then they get smushed on the ground. And then Steven says that the fall was weak. He wants to do it again. And then the next thing you know, they have brought him in magically from his car. And then the foxes start chasing him.
Yes. And so they got kind of revenge on their boss, basically, at the end. Poor
That
Steven.
was not funny. It was not funny. I mean, for some people it might be, but I think it was funny. But up until then, it was hilarious. And he has his license plate that says SS for Steven Spielberg. And
yeah, and there's even the little E.T. Amblin, bike. I think it was like the at the hood of his car. You can kind of see it through the windshield, through some shots, which was kind of cool. Steven Spielberg, let me tell you, the ultimate in multitasking in this. He's on his car phone while watching TV and waving to celebrities at the same time.
Kids, don't do that at home.
Do not do this at home. And of course, this is back in the 90s when having a phone in your car was, you had to be rich if you had a phone in your car. But hey, there's no rules against talking on the phone while driving back then. No hands-free laws or anything like that. Who knows? Maybe that there are so many hands-free laws now in California because of Steven Spielberg. We'll never know. But I suppose the main thing we should point out. Oh, by the way, I looked up. What was her name here again?
Michelle Lee.
Michelle Lee. The thing she's, I think, most known for is Knots Landing.
I said Dynasty. I was close.
Yeah.
They're about the same thing.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I suppose the biggest reference, of course, is this is based off of a true story. Yes, in case you didn't know, in case you haven't been listening to us that long, this is all based upon when Steven Spielberg actually called Tom Ruegger, and I believe Sherry Stoner was there as well, I believe, and he was giving them notes about some of the animation that he had been seeing. So, and as he was talking to them from his car phone, he was seeing people in other cars and saying, "Hey, there's so-and-so." I think the best thing for me to do would be to do something I don't think we've ever done on the show before, which is to play
Call Steven Spielberg!
No, I wish.
From the 405.
From the 405. No, what we're going to do is we're going to play a flashback of our own episode. Let's hear Tom Ruegger talk about what happened.
That was one of the later episodes of Tiny Toons, a phone call from the 405, and it was based on an actual phone call received from Steven. Now, and Sherry Stoner and I were in the office, and we took this call. It was about 4 p.m, and it was about another episode that Steven had just watched on video. So he had watched that. Then he got in his car with the storyboard, and I can only imagine. I was under the impression that he was driving, and I contend that he was driving. And he was, in my opinion, multitasking to a great degree. So now I don't know if the phone was one of these things where you're holding it to your ear or it was in the steering column, but anyway, he's on the phone with us. "Hey, Tom, hi, I'm on the 405. I'm going south on the 405. Listen, I want to go over some of these, one of the cartoons you sent over this morning. The line quality is way too thick. You got to get that fixed." And so anyway, it was a conversation like that. So I had him on the speakerphone, and Stoner and I are writing down the notes that Steven is giving us. And so then he starts giving us notes on the storyboard that we had sent him the night before. And we can hear him flipping the pages as he's driving on the phone. And he's flipping the pages. Now look at this pan here. This pan is taking way too long. It's taking way too. Just put the whole scene in one master shot. Then you don't have to do the pan because the pan's just wasting time. And so we get that. Now, so then he goes back to the footage. And he says, "Now, I've told you from when the stuff that we're getting from ACOM in South Korea has great shadows on it, beautiful shadows. There's a core shadow on every character. Now, this cartoon here, this is not from ACOM because there are no shadows. Now, I need shadow. I need bigger shadow, more shadow, lots of shadows." And and we're saying, okay, more shadows. We're gonna add shadows. We're gonna call the overseas studio. We're gonna call, and then, right when we're kind of responding to him, he says, "Hey, Michelle, how you doing? Hi." We're like, what? What is he doing? It turns out that Michelle Lee, the actress, was driving past in another car, and Steven. He's not busy enough driving, looking at the storyboard on the phone, but he's also looking out the window at people going by. "Hey, Michelle, hi." So that's my entire story. It's just the guy is a busy, creative guy. He really is busy.
Yeah, that I was just rewatching Phone Call from the 405 a few weeks ago, and yeah, that whole conversation was pretty much verbatim put into the cartoon, wasn't it?
Absolutely verbatim.
I love it at the end. He's like, "And Carrie Fisher's on the other line. I gotta go. Bye."
Oh, there. That was the end. That was the end of the phone call.
Oh, really?
And Fisher, as I think you know, she was for many years his script doctor. Mm-hmm. He script doctored many of his films during that period.
Hook was one.
Well, she needed a specialist on that one.
I love Hook. Great.
Nice.
You know we've gotten big when we're like quoting ourselves.
I know. Self-referential. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I was just listening to an episode where we actually I was listening to a random episode the other day in our back catalog, and Harrison Ford appeared on our show.
I love that episode.
That was so...
We could have him again.
Well, you never know. Might happen.
It's hard, yeah. He has a big schedule of things, but he does. He will be. Does he promote movies he's not in? Star Wars?
Maybe he'll promote Episode 9 because
that's coming out.
You don't know his contract.
Want to promote that?
I mean, sure, Han Solo died, but he might just be there to promote, the movie anyway. It might be. You never know how these contracts work. Well, let's go ahead and talk about. I mean, so we talked about the references and everything, but Kelly, I'm going to get to you last because you have probably the most to say about it. But Nathan, what were some things you really liked about this cartoon?
Really like that the wraparound like wraps right into this episode like seamlessly. It's like I just thought that was really awesome. And I liked the phone call from the 405 from Steven Spielberg. How he's seeing, like, I like there's cars crashing around him and everything.
Oh, really? I didn't even see that. That's funny.
Here's what we want. We want you to kind of smile as you see from like a POV shot.
Kelly, let's go ahead and get to it. Why do you love Phone Call from the 405 so much? What stood out? What as a kid, like, memories of it, stuff like that? What do you think?
Steven Spielberg.
So, what are your memories of seeing this as a kid?
Well, I mean, I was a teenager.
Well, still, I'm saying you're a kid.
I probably wrote about it in my diary. I don't know, but I'll have to go back and.
Yeah, we need to hear these diary entries. I want to hear these diary entries. Well, we're planning on special segments one of these days when Kelly can dig up her old diary entries and her reflections of Animaniacs and Tiny Toons.
Yeah, I talk about Steven Spielberg a lot. In pink and purple writing. It's hilarious. So, no, I think it was just the unexpectedness of it because I'm pretty sure this came out before Animaniacs, right? It was,
oh yeah.
We said it was like 92.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think this one came out before that other, where Steven actually voiced his own voice.
Yes.
So this was the first cartoon to actually have Steven Spielberg, and it was so unexpected. And it was probably one of those things where I was like doing my homework or something and halfway paying attention, and then this pops on, and I'm like, "Oh my God, Steven Spielberg!" And of course, then I'm riveted. And I just thought it was so funny, and how he's directing the show, and really part of the animation of Tiny Toons now. I mean, he's part of that world now, and I thought he was so cute, just in his little hat and his shirt, and talking to Carrie Fisher, and of course I love it's not a direct Star Wars reference, but it's Carrie Fisher, so that means Star Wars. and I got the Young Indy connection too at that point, because Young Indy we said in 92, so it was already like most of the show was probably already over by that time because it aired in March originally in 92. So I just thought it was funny. He was funny and quirky, and more shadows. We need more shadows.
Well, yeah, it was nice to see, like, how Steven Spielberg really took the show seriously, though. He did it. If his name was going to be on it, he wanted to make sure that it was quality, and it was just so interesting to hear, from Tom and from like Otto Payton and other people behind the show how busy he was at that time, and with Tiny Toons and and then Animaniacs, and he was making like movies like Hook and of course Schindler's List and Jurassic Park. These are huge monumental films, And to be able to get like all these animated series as well at the same time, it's incredibly impressive to have all those different balls to juggle. And, to be able to trust, he obviously trusted the right people to work on these shows so that he could go and check in on them from time to time to make sure that things were working. And like, Tom Ruegger said, his main job at Warner Brothers was what? To make Steven happy. That was their main thing. So that, when they had to go fly, to overseas the very next day to go talk to the animation departments in these places about how they're going to improve the animation because Steven didn't like it, what they saw. So very interesting to see how involved he'll be in this upcoming reboot of Animaniacs as well. Yeah. So let's go ahead and get to our Water Tower rating. Well, what do you guys think? Out of 5 water towers, how many would you give today's episode of Tiny Toon Adventures? Nathan, let's start with you.
Ooh, boy. Okay. Well, I mean, this is only the second one that I've seen recently. So,
yeah.
I'm going to say 4.5. I think there's going to be even better ones. I don't really know but if not, then 4.5 will be my 5 at the end. But I'm going to say 4.5. And I guess there was just like some slow parts in the middle-ish, and it made me kind of sad. I really did laugh, though, when she said they're going to Utah. But I think there's just been so much hype on this that it was hard to, exceed those expectations. So I was like, yeah, it was a really good episode. So I'll just say 4.5. I can't imagine
who would have hyped it up.
I know someone hyped it up. So if that's not high enough for someone, it's their fault for hyping it up too much.
Well, I'm going to go in the middle this time because, I think we all know what's happening at the end. But I'm going to give this one, I'm just going to give this 3.5. And that's only because the first 2 segments were, okay. They weren't as funny as they could have been. And I do remember other Tiny Toon episodes that, in my opinion, were a lot stronger as a whole for me. But so I'm going to say 3.5. Phone Call from the 405, I think obviously stands out above and beyond as a memorable and funny, segment. But as a whole, I'm going to give it 3.5. And Kelly, what about you?
Okay, so this episode for me is called Phone Call from the 405. There is no other part of the episode because I didn't remember the other 2 segments at all when I rewatched them. And B, that is the episode. So based on that, 5 stars.
Right. 5 water towers from Kelly.
Yeah, sorry. I always do that.
Yeah.
5 water towers.
You ever hear stars?
Can I give it stars too?
Yeah,
5 stars and 5 water towers.
Wow, that is amazing. Well, before we wrap things up, let's go and talk about what we're going to talk about next week. It's a Pinky in the Brain episode. Now, last time we talked about Pinky in the Brain, we talked about the Das Maus. But and we could go anywhere in the timeline. But since it's my pick, I'm just going to say the next episode. Episode 2 of Pinky in the Brain.
I was all on the edge of my seat. I didn't know what.
I could go anywhere I wanted to, and I didn't. We're just going to go to the next one, which is Of Mouse and Man, which involves the brain getting a job in the real world. He has to go to his great adventure in business.
In business. You'll love business.
Sam the Eagle.
Yes. And if you don't know what movie that is from, ladies and gentlemen, well, you need to listen to us more often to find out, because I think we mention that movie about every 3rd episode, I think. So probably. Anyway, so that'll be next week. So tune in and we'll talk about Pinky in the Brain. Let's go ahead and get to our contact information. Nathan, where can people get in contact with you online?
Well, Joey, I'm on Twitter, JangoFT. That's me. I've got so many followers. I just had a birthday recently, a couple weeks ago, and I got so many more followers. You can be one of the new followers that are following me.
Yeah, you had like
so amazing.
You had like five more followers or something like that. It was wow.
I know. I almost doubled my numbers.
Well, speaking of,
I'm up over 60 now. So.
Yeah, woo. Well, maybe you'll be number 70. Get over there, Django FT. That's him.
That's me.
And speaking of high numbers, Facebook Animaniacast just hit over 900 likes. Over 900 people like us, guys. Isn't that great? Anyway. Kelly, where can people get in contact with you online?
I'm on Twitter at Yoda Princess, YODAPRNCSS. And also you can email me, Kelly at BigShinyRobot.com.
Always willing to talk about Spielberg, whatever time it is.
I was about to say you can email me and we can talk about Steven.
Well, as for the Animaniacast, we are on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. And of course, hey, a great way to get in contact with us and hang out and just talk about whatever is to go over to the Discord channel, and you can find a welcome link to our Discord RetroZap account by going to discord.animaniacast.com, and there you'll be able to talk to us, the hosts of the Animaniacast, as well as other hosts of other RetroZap podcasts, such as the ArgCast, Bruce and Blasters, all of the superhero podcasts, the Deucecast, the movie show, the Dork Lair, Dooncast, a lot of Dune news coming out, Kanata's Castle, Starship Sabers and Scoundrels, Techno Retro Dads, Warp Trails, and for all of you Game of Thrones fans out there, there's We Know Nothing. So whether it's Star Wars or just anything in pop culture, RetroZap.com has you covered and has a ton of great podcasts that you should listen to, so you should subscribe to the RetroZap feed on your favorite podcast player. You can get this podcast, as well as all the other RetroZap podcasts, delivered straight to your device for no money whatsoever, completely free. It's amazing. Well, that'll do it for today's episode, so for Nathan and Kelly, this is Joey saying, good night, everybody!
Good night, everybody!
Good night, everybody!
This podcast is not endorsed by Warner Brothers or Amblin Entertainment and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Animaniacs, Tiny Toon Adventures, Freakazoid, the Warner Brothers logo, all names, pictures, and sounds are registered trademarks and or copyrights of their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of the Animaniacast unless otherwise indicated.
Okay, and we need shadows. We need more shadows. Just more shadows. More shadows. I want lots and lots of shadows, period.